Hello friends. Recently, Pakistan's Field Marshal Asim Munir has threatened India with nuclear war from the American soil. So let us see how these things will reflect on Asim Munir himself and how he is becoming just one more puppet in the hands of US manipulators. As you know, power drunk military dictators often combine arrogance with poor judgment. They mistake diplomatic ambiguity or even polite gestures as silent approval for risky moves, dragging their nations into crisis with no easy escape. This problem is systemic. Unchecked power blinds them to reality and silences those voices that could warn against overreach. US leaders have repeatedly used such flaws in Asia and Africa to their advantage. In 1990, Iraqi President Saddam Hussein misread US intentions after meeting Ambassador April Gillespie, taking her vague remarks on Kuwait as a green light to invade. The result was a disastrous war that left Iraq isolated and ruined, which benefited America. In 2025, Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir seems to be repeating the pattern, raising nuclear threats against India after high-profile US meetings. Both men mistook ambiguous US diplomacy for endorsement. History shows such missteps rarely end well. By mid-1990, Iraq and Kuwait were locked in bitter disputes over oil production, pricing policies, and Iraq's demand that Kuwait forgive debts from the Iran-Iraq war. In this tense climate, Iraqi President Saddam Hussein met US Ambassador April Gillespie on July 25, 1990. Gillespie's remark that the US had no opinion on the Arab-Arab conflicts was meant to signal neutrality, not support. She also expressed hope for a peaceful resolution. Yet, whether her account was truthful remains disputed. Saddam chose to interpret her words as silent approval. On August 2, Iraqi forces invaded Kuwait. The global response was immediate. The UN imposed sanctions and the United States built an unprecedented coalition that launched Operation Desert Storm in January 1991. Iraq's defeat was crushing, its military crippled and economy devastated. The speed of America's reaction suggests a pre-planned trap, especially given US oil interests. Later, Gillespie told the Senate that she had warned Saddam against force, adding, "We foolishly did not realize he was stupid." Many see this as disingenuous. Saddam, once favored by the US, had angered Washington by refusing to privatize Iraq's national oil company. After his fall, major Western oil giants, including ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, and Shell, swiftly moved in, alongside American oil service firms like Halliburton. Historians view the Gillespie meeting as a textbook case of how authoritarian leaders, blinded by ego, can mistake diplomatic vagueness for a green light. Saddam's miscalculation triggered a chain of events that led to his overthrow and execution. The lesson is clear. In geopolitics, reading ambiguity as approval can destroy both a leader and a nation. In 2025, a situation reminiscent of past geopolitical blunders seems to be taking shape in South Asia. Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir, effectively the ruler of Pakistan, was hosted for a rare private lunch with the US President at the White House. And this was the first such meeting in over a decade. Reportedly, discussions covered trade, economic cooperation, cryptocurrency, and rare earth minerals. For Washington, it appeared to be about exploring cooperation in the changing Indo Pacific landscape, not endorsing Pakistan's strategic ambitions. 2 months later, on August 10, Munir spoke at a Pakistani diaspora event in Tampa, Florida, in the United States, making an alarming statement. And I quote him: "If we think we are going down, we will take half the world down with us." Unquote. This was widely understood as a nuclear threat, with India the likely target. He also threatened to destroy India's Indus River infrastructure and Jamnagar refinery. India's Ministry of External Affairs condemned the remark as irresponsible nuclear saber rattling. In the US, former Pentagon official Michael Rubin called Munir Osama bin Laden in a suit and urged a review of Pakistan's nuclear security. The episode unfolded alongside a controversial US decision to label the Balochistan Liberal Army a terrorist group, a move critics saw as favoring Pakistan. Whether Munir's words were political theatre or a genuine warning, they risk deepening Pakistan's isolation, provoking sanctions, and prompting adversaries to consider preemptive action. The parallels between Saddam Hussein in 1990 and Asim Munir in 2025 reveal a familiar pattern of authoritarian misjudgment. Saddam, after meeting US Ambassador April Glasspie, took America's declared neutrality on Arab disputes as a green light to invade Kuwait, leading to international isolation, the Gulf War, and his eventual downfall. Similarly, Munir's private lunch with the US President, which was intended as warm transactional engagement on economic cooperation, appears to have been interpreted as license for nuclear brinkmanship against India. And this includes threats of strikes and economic sabotage. In both cases, authoritarian power structures insulated the leaders from dissent, encouraging them to misread Washington's intentions and prompting actions that risked uniting powerful coalitions against them. The recurring nature of such miscalculations points to a deeper problem. Authoritarian leaders, particularly military dictators or rulers, often operate inside echo chambers where subordinates are too fearful to challenge flawed assumptions. This creates a feedback loop in which diplomatic signals, however nuanced, are filtered through a lens of personal ambition and strategic overconfidence. As political scientist Barbara Geddes has noted, military regimes are especially prone to overestimating their international leverage because they draw legitimacy from perception of strength and cannot afford to appear weak without risking domestic instability. In such environments, diplomatic ambiguity becomes dangerous. It is less likely to be interpreted as caution and more likely to be spun as validation. The historical record offers other examples. Mussolini's belief that Britain would not oppose his ambitions in the Mediterranean led to disastrous military campaigns in Greece and North Africa. Libya's Muammar Gaddafi, misjudging Western tolerance for his defiance, provoked interventions that ultimately ended his rule and his life. In each case, the dictator's isolation from reality proved fatal. Asim Munir would do well to study how Washington has treated Pakistan's past leaders and how most of them met unhappy ends. Liaquat Ali Khan, Pakistan's first Prime Minister from 1947 to 1951, chose Washington over Moscow for his first major state visit in 1950, which was indicator of aligning with the West. In return, the US gave economic aid, military training, and diplomatic backing. He was assassinated in 1951. Ayub Khan, 1958 to 1969, joined US-led alliances SEATO and CENTO and even allowed US spy bases in Pakistan. Aid poured in, but relations soured after the 1965 war with India and he retired in disgrace. Yahya Khan, 1969-1971, helped open US-China relations but lost US usefulness after Pakistan's 1971 defeat and breakup. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, 1973 to 1977, kept ties with Washington but clashed over nuclear ambitions. Kissinger allegedly threatened to make him a horrible example. He was hanged. Ziaul Haq, 1978 to 1988, became America's key ally in the Soviet-Afghan War, receiving billions in aid. He died in a mysterious plane crash with CIA involvement suspected. Benazir Bhutto, 1988 to 1990 and 1993 to 1996, gained US favor but lost it over nuclear issues and militant ties. She was assassinated in 2007. Nawaz Sharif, 1990 to 1993 and 1997 to 1999, enjoyed US support until nuclear tests in 1998 led to sanctions. After the Kargil conflict, Washington approved Musharraf's coup against Nawaz Sharif. Pervez Musharraf, 2001 to 2008, cooperated fully in the war on terror, earning billions in aid, but US support faded and he was ousted. The pattern is clear. Washington's friendship is transactional, and once a Pakistani leader outlives their strategic usefulness, they are discarded, often violently. Pakistan today faces severe economic fragility. Its foreign reserves are thin, debt repayments are mounting, and it depends heavily on international goodwill for trade, investment, and aid. Munir's nuclear threats jeopardize all of these. They risk driving India, the United States, and other powers toward a unified policy of containment or even coercion. Moreover, such rhetoric undermines Pakistan's own diplomatic narrative. For decades, Islamabad has sought to portray itself as a responsible nuclear power and a victim of Indian aggression. Openly threatening to take half the world down shatters that image and strengthens India's argument that Pakistan's nuclear arsenal is in unsafe hands. It also raises questions in Washington. While the president's personal diplomacy is often idiosyncratic, the US strategic establishment remains sensitive to nuclear proliferation risks. If Munir's threats are taken at face value, they could prompt calls in Congress and the Pentagon to reassess Pakistan's nuclear security, possibly even to prepare contingency plans for neutralizing the arsenal in a crisis. Saddam Hussein's 1990 invasion of Kuwait and Asim Munir's 2025 nuclear threats share a common flaw: misreading US intentions. Saddam mistook April Gillespie's neutral words as approval, leading to a war that wrecked Iraq's military, shattered its economy, and ended in his execution. Munir may be making a similar blunder, seeing the US president's warmth as a green light for aggression. This risks isolating Pakistan, hurting its economy, and provoking conflict with India. In today's world, diplomatic signals are complex and often transactional, not unconditional. Leaders with unchecked power must read them carefully. Ambiguity is not endorsement, and arrogance is not strategy. Saddam's downfall is not just history, it is a clear warning Munir should not ignore. In case you have liked my video, please do like, subscribe, comment, and share. Thank you.